So, when I say the name Leonardo da Vinci, what pops into your head? For most of us, it's the Mona Lisa, right? That famous, mysterious smile. But the guy who painted that was, wow, so much more. In this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers and look past the art to find the real, absolutely mind-bending genius of the man.
But let's start at the end, with his reported last words. "I have offended God and mankind." I mean, how wild is that? This is a man we all consider one of the greatest geniuses in history, and on his deathbed he thinks he's a failure. It doesn't add up, right? Well, it doesn't make sense until you realize what he was actually trying to accomplish.
So that's the big question we're going to tackle. Why on earth would he feel that way? And to get to the bottom of it, we have to understand that his ambition wasn't just to paint a few pretty pictures. His ambition was to understand literally everything. And look, don't get me wrong, his fame as an artist is totally deserved. The Mona Lisa, The Last Supper, these are iconic masterpieces for a reason. But only seeing him as a painter? That's like seeing the tiny tip of an iceberg and completely missing the colossal mountain of ice hiding just beneath the surface. I mean, just look at this list. Painter? Sure. But also a philosopher, an architect, an engineer, an inventor, an anatomist? The list just goes on and on. He wasn't just called a Renaissance man, he lived it. Art was just one of the many, many languages his incredible curiosity spoke.
And this, right here, is what made him so different. See, most thinkers back then were busy looking to the past, studying the ancient Greeks and Romans, but Leonardo, his eyes were locked on the future. He wasn't just trying to copy what was already done, he was trying to invent things that nobody had even dreamed of yet.
And yeah, that forward-looking vision led to some of the most unbelievable designs and inventions in history. Most of them wouldn't actually become a reality for hundreds of years.
Take this, for example. He was obsessed with flight, and he sketched out this incredible design for an aerial screw. Now, this wasn't just some fantasy drawing. It was so well thought out that Igor Sikorsky, the guy who invented the first successful helicopter, actually pointed to Leonardo's work as a major inspiration.
Then you've got his ideas for the battlefield, which were just as nuts for the time. He designed this armored vehicle, kind of like a giant turtle shell on wheels, that could be powered by men inside and had cannons sticking out in every direction. It's basically the great-great-grandfather of a modern tank.
He didn't just stop at the land and the sky either. He wanted to conquer the sea. Long before anyone was thinking about scuba diving, Leonardo was designing a full-body leather diving suit with a breathing tube made from cane that connected to a float on the surface. And get this, he even pictured a world without horses pulling carts. He designed what's essentially the first car. It was a self-propelled cart that used a system of coiled springs, and he even figured out a way to program its steering, an ancestor of the automobile, plain and simple.
Okay, let's just stop for a second and let that number sink in. 500. He was coming up with the concepts for helicopters, tanks, and cars 500 years before they were real. His brain was basically a time machine, operating on a completely different frequency from everyone else.
But it wasn't just about machines. He was obsessed with what made us tick too. And he did this at a time when it was totally forbidden by the church, right? He would secretly dissect human corpses, often late at night, just to figure out how everything worked. His drawings were so precise, they were the best anatomical guides in the world for centuries, and really laid the groundwork for modern medicine.
All right, I've got a story for you that just perfectly sums up how massive his ambition was. It's a little-known moment where Leonardo da Vinci tried to literally connect two continents. So back in 1502, he shoots off this letter to the Ottoman Sultan with this absolutely wild proposal. He offers to build a single-span bridge across the Golden Horn in Istanbul. If they had actually built it, it would have been the longest bridge in the entire world. But the Sultan's engineers, they took one look and said, no way, it's impossible, and the whole idea was rejected.
And here's the kicker. The bridge wasn't even the whole deal. In the same letter, he was like, oh, and by the way, I can also design you brand new types of windmills and super efficient water pumps. He was basically offering to spark an entire technological revolution for the Ottoman Empire.
I mean, just think about that for a second. It's one of history's biggest what-ifs. What would have changed if the Sultan had said yes? What could that one bridge, a physical and intellectual connection between East and West, have done to change history? It's staggering to think about.
So all of this, the futuristic inventions, the secret dissections, this unbelievable bridge proposal, it all brings us back to where we started, his last words. We're starting to get a picture of why a man who dreamed this big might feel like he just hadn't done enough.
This, right here, this table tells you everything you need to know. In his entire life, he finished fewer than 20 paintings. But He left behind over 7,000 pages of notebooks, just filled with sketches, ideas, scientific observations. For a little perspective, Bill Gates bought just one of those notebooks for nearly $40 million. You see, his real masterpiece wasn't a painting. It was thousands and thousands of pages of pure curiosity.
And this quote was basically his life's motto. Leonardo wasn't just a daydreamer, he was a scientist. He believed you only really know something if you've seen it, tested it, experienced it for yourself. Those 7,000 pages, they weren't just sketches, they were proof. They were him trying to figure it all out, piece by piece.
And that's it. That's the answer. Those final words, "I have offended God and mankind," they weren't an admission of failure. They were the ultimate complaint from a mind that saw an infinite universe of things to learn and explore, but was trapped in a single finite lifetime. He didn't feel like a failure because he was bad. He felt like a failure because one life was just way too short for a mind like his.
So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. Leonardo da Vinci finished very, very few things in his life. But what he started? My gosh, he started a whole new way of looking at the world. So what do you think matters more? The handful of finished products or the thousands of questions that move all of us forward? A man who lived for just 67 years, but whose questions are still pushing us forward more than 500 years later. The painter, the scientist, the inventor, the real and truly limitless genius of Leonardo da Vinci.